Hi, so welcome back to How to Draw Isolines. So now we're going to be working on 203B, which is isomap B. So make sure you have that PDF open when you try doing this. All right, so we've done one map where we drew isolines. So we're going to be doing this again, and what we're going to do is we're going to see a little bit different how isolines work. So again, isolines are lines that connect points of equal observed or inferred value. They go by intervals, some kind of counting number. In this case, we're going to go by interval of 2. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to identify, well, what lines do we need to draw? So the smallest value that we're going to be needing, the smallest even number is an 8. And the highest even value is a 14. So we're going to need the 8 line, the 10 line, the 12 line, and a 14 line. So we want to kind of keep that in mind as we do this, that we're going to be drawing 4 different lines. Okay, so it doesn't make any difference. You don't have to start with the smallest number or the largest number. You can actually start in the middle, and that's actually what I'm going to do. I'm going to start with the 12 line. So I need to notice that there are going to be some observed 12s and some inferred 12s. So I have an observed 12 here, another one over here. Just looking around, I think that's it. So now I need to find some inferred 12s. So again, I can use pairs of observations, pairs of measurements to determine whether or not I can go in a certain direction or not. So I can pick either one of these. I'm going to go with the left one. And I'm going to take a look at the cell, the different measurements around it. And I notice that there's an 11 and a 13 right below it, and that means there's going to be a 12 right in the middle. So I'm going to start off by drawing a line going down in between the 11 and the 13. From there, now I have a line with 2 ends, and so it cannot stop that way. It has to go off the field at the margins, or it has to connect back onto itself. So I'm going to continue going here. So I'm right here. I need to look around at the local dots, local observations, and determine where I can go. So I can go between 10 and 13. So there's definitely a 12 between those. So I'm going to go through here. And then I look around. I cannot go between 13 and 14, or this 13 and this 14. So I'm not going to be going up, but I can go between 10 and 14. So bring it all the way over here. And then I can go between 9 and 14, so bring it up. I can't go between 8 and 9. I can go between 8 and 14. And there's a 12 right there, so I'm going to bring this up and connect it into the 12. All right, so I'm still in the middle of the map, so I have to continue going. There is going to be a 12 between 11 and 14, so I'm going to keep going. I have to go between the 11 and 13. So you know what? I'm gonna erase this and kind of draw it in a little bit of a different direction. I'm gonna bring it up here between the 11 and 13. And there's another 11, 13 here. So I'm gonna bring it over, and then I'm close enough that I can connect it back. And that works because I can't go between the 11s. So I'm really stuck inside this. So there we go. It's looped around. Now, one thing that we want to do then is we want to label this line. So what I do is I just kind of empty it or make a little white space or a lighter space, and then I'm going to label it right on the line like that. Okay, so I know now that I'm done with the 12 line. Again, I followed all the rules. Connects all of the visible observed 12s, the measured 12s, but it also hits places where I can infer there's going to be a 12 to be. All right, so moving on. I can either go up or down, but at this point, I don't want to just randomly choose. I actually want to go by the interval. So I can either do the 14 or I can do the 10. So for now, I think what I'll do is I'm going to go up and I'll do the 14. So we have these two 14s right here. Now I could just connect those with a line, but then I wouldn't necessarily know where to go. I do have an existing pattern. So what would happen if I took this loop and I made it smaller so that it would go through both of these, both of these observed points. So I'm going to have a loop because that's the existing pattern. And I can even think of it as the bottom 14 being the bottom of the loop and the top 14 being the top of the loop. So maybe something like this. And again, I probably want to label it. So I'm just going to cover up a little bit here and write in 14. Okay, so I've got a 12 line and I've got a 14 line. I have a pattern emerging. Going back to the rules, the isolines cannot touch, they cannot cross, and therefore they create a similar pattern. So now I'm going to go on the outside of this, and going down, I have a 14 line. Now I need to do a 12 line. So I'm sorry, I got a 12 line. Now I need to do a 10 line. So I have some 10s down here along the bottom. And there's nothing that says I can't connect them. And I've kind of got this straight line here on the 12. So I'm just going to connect these two 10s together. And then I'm going to look and see where I can go. So looking at this, I don't have anything down here at the very bottom, but I do have a 9 over here. And if we remember that I can use any point on the line to use as an inference point. So this blue X is going to be a 12. It's on the 12 line, so it has to have a value of a 12. And I'm trying to draw the 10 line, and there is a 10 between 9 and 12. So I'm going to take my line, my 10 line, I'm going to bring it all the way around here, continuing to follow the pattern. And I'm going to bring it in close to the 9. And then I'm going to bring it up in between the 8s and the 12s. And then I have this 10 that's up here in the corner. So now I will bring it out to the 10. And then I'm going to kind of loop it back like this a little bit so that it looks like it's matching the pattern that we see in the 12. On this lower left-hand side of the 10 line back here, I need to continue it to the margin. So I'm going to take this line, I'm going to kind of curve it up a little bit so that it goes off the margin over here. I'm going to label it here and label it up at the top where it went off. And now I have a 10 line that fits the same general pattern that was seen with the 12 and the 14. We could even imagine, if you will, the 10 line perhaps being off the map, doing something like that. But we're not going to draw that in because it's off of our field and we are not paying attention to that. Okay, so our next line is going to be the 8 line. And so I have these two 8s, and the pattern that we're getting right there is kind of straight. So I can just connect these two 8s together. Now the question is, do I go on the inside of the 9 or the outside of the 9? So there is no 8 between 9 and 10. There's a 10 right there. So I'm going to need to go to the outside of that 9. So I'm going to come down. Whoops, wrong color. So I'm going to come down and kind of curve it down, and I'm going to hit the margin right here. So I'm going to put an 8 there at the margin, and then I'm going to bring this up and curve it, and I'll hit here an 8. And there we go. All right, so I've got the 8 line, I've got a 10 line, I've got a 12 line, I've got a 14 line. All of the lines are separate. They don't touch or cross. There is a general pattern. The lines either go off the map and they're marked at the margin, or they loop back and connect with itself. And now we're done with drawing isolines B.